Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the BFUHS School Board meeting.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Monday, September 25th, 6:30 p.m. at the Bellows Union High School. First up, pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody. And as customary for we like to do introductions just in case we have somebody out there in Zoom land who might not know us. So Deb, can we start on your side?
Sure, I'm Deb Wright. I represent Rockingham on the Bellows Union.
So Greg represents Grafton. Tanya Noy represents Athens. June Streeter representing Westminster.
David Clark, also representing Westminster.
Jason Terry representing Rockingham.
Andy Haas, Superintendent.
Priscilla Lambert representing Rockingham.
Rob Wells representing Rockingham.
Kelly O'Ryan, principal.
Jamie Starrow representing Westminster.
Okay.
Mike, do we have Mike?
No. It's public.
So is Mike resign?
I have not accepted his resignation yet. Public tonight. All right, thank you. Next up, communication and public comment. Before we do that, I just want to, June, if you could you do 2 minutes in case anybody wants to speak?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do, just if you can come on up, any members of the public would like to come up, there's a sign-up sheet next to Jamie. What I'd like to do with that is get your name, email, phone number, and so I can, thank you for coming and expressing whatever you'd like to say. And anybody on Zoom, just please raise your hand and Andy will let us know. So anybody in the audience like to speak?
Jason, just point of order.
Yes.
You said that each person would be allowed 2 minutes. I just wasn't clear enough to make sure that everybody who would speak knows
Yep.
that.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Deb. Any public comment from the audience before we go to Zoom? Sure. Okay.
Where am I gonna go? Mr. Chair.
Yes, please. If you could just state your name and
Robbie Strike, and I'm actually gonna read what I wrote.
okay.
Honestly, I don't really wanna be here. My wife is a board member and this is her deal, not mine, but as a taxpayer, I have a few things to say and I'm not gonna ask her to do it. I just feel like lately, a lot of people in this world have lost morals and respect for others. There are far too many people that just care about themselves and what they want and not how others are gonna be affected by their actions. I zoomed into your special meeting last week. The main reason that meeting took place and took time away from all you guys is because one member was upset they didn't get put on the committee. I heard a lot of I'm sorry's and be kind during that meeting. Words are just that, words. Anybody can say what they want, but their actions really show how they feel. And from the actions after the meeting, I think we all know that those were just words. I'm a volunteer fire chief and I work with lots of personalities all the time. It's not easy, I know, it's hard. Being a volunteer firefighter is no different than you guys serving on this board. We're all doing it because we're trying to help our communities. None of us are doing it as a career, so none of us have all the experience. Everyone here sitting at these tables brings a different level of experience and knowledge. By all of you working together, you can get stuff done. If you're nitpicking each other, it's not gonna happen. And what I just said is it's not a career for any of us, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to be professional. And if you can't be professional in this setting, don't take the seat. And I'll just finish up with a quote from C.S. Lewis. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching.
Thank you, Robbie. Anyone else?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Morse. I'm on the Rockingham School Board. And I apologize for not saying hello when I came in. Normally, I'm a bit friendlier. This is a friendly occasion. My partner is a retired art teacher from high school. She taught in New Jersey for 35 years. And she has lots of books. I wanted to give this one, and hopefully if there's interest from the art department, I have others. This is a volume just on Van Gogh. Hopefully, we still study Van Gogh and appreciate his gift to humanity. Okay, so either Jason or Andy, if you could see this goes to the right place here within the building, the high school.
Kelly, right there.
Kelly,
That'd
say I'm Bill. We don't know each other, but that's cool that you're here and you think you could make use of this. It's tattered from lots of browse, but it's all together inside. And this guy, his work is very moving. So I'd love to share this or have this shared with other younger people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. I'll sign here. We hope that you have a very productive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, anything? Okay, anyone on Zoom, Andy?
Don't see any hands up.
This board received an email over the weekend from a community member. I just don't know how we would want to handle that.
I did answer that individual back. I could not reply all. I did copy the administration on it and just that it wasn't in the agenda tonight. You certainly, if you'd like to read it, feel free. But I just said, we have our budget meeting the 28th this week, and that, hopefully that person can come then. And I thank them for their insight, and it was very valuable feedback, and I think we need more of that. So,
Thank you.
Debate, any objection? Anyone else like this has it, like to read it? Please let me know, and we can do that too. Okay, nothing on Zoom. Okay, up next we have adjustments to the agenda. I have one, or you're gonna have the same one, Andy?
I don't know.
What is your adjustment that you
The
would
tennis
like to
courts?
consider?
We originally had put down no action. We are actually asking for action. We know that may need to be ratified at a future meeting, but we'd like to move forward.
I would like to allow that to say action instead of no action. That was actually my adjustment too. Anybody else?
Point of order is that adjustments to the agenda are supposed to happen before we get into the meeting, including communications and public comments. So you might want to move it up in the future, just because it gives the public the best opportunity to speak to the matter during their public comment, if they want to.
So I just want to make sure I heard you. Going forward, number 4 should be 5, 5 should be 4.
Move number 5 up.
Okay.
And I know you want to do the call to order pledge of allegiance, but then perhaps we should do that maybe after 3, I guess.
Thank you, Deb. I always like learning new stuff.
Thank
Rob, did you have anything?
Yeah, I had 3 if I could.
Fire away.
I'd like to create a 7 WNESU board member resignation appointment, possible action needed. Number 8, Bellows Falls Union High School board member, possible resignation in the process. I don't think we need action on that. Then have number 9 be the tennis court, or I'm sorry, 9 be the election of Mike Stack to represent BFUHS on RVTC board, action needed. And then I would like to add number 10, board goals and norms, action needed.
Okay,
Can I help organize that a little bit?
yeah, can you help us
So,
say that again?
so under 7A, you'd like to have the first one you mentioned.
WNESU board member resignation appointment.
Okay. And then the next one you had was what?
BFUHS board member possible resignation process.
So,
BFUHS, what?
Board member,
Resignation.
possible resignation now.
could we do that as a 7B, or would that be part of 7A? I'm just trying to,
Those are the three
Okay.
things I would like to add to the agenda. How it's added number wise or letters, I'm good with
okay.
leaning
And
on.
then the last one was,
BFUHSA or BFUHS board goals and norms, action needed.
so that would go, can we put that under 8? So it could be
This is
8B,
Unfinished business.
unfinished business, because we've talked about it in the past.
Yes.
Okay.
8A.
Well, I'm counting a 1 as an
A
A.
1. So we have a 1, so that would be a 2.
Yeah, so a
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
Okay, so 7A was resignation, one more time, Rob, please.
WNESU board member resignation appointment, possible action needed.
Then B was process of resignation.
A BFUHS board member.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. And then the goals have been moved to unfinished business.
Yeah.
Rob, can I ask, that we do under the process, we do that one first before we appoint the resignation?
Oh, flip them?
Yeah, can we do that one first?
Say that again, please.
So instead of 7A resignation, WNESU action appointment, can we do the process is for the BFUHS board for resignation? We do that one first?
The only reason I put that on is due to the original number 7. So I like that right before the original number 7 if possible.
So that would be 7, and then the other 2 things. would be 8.
So, yeah, so 7 would become, process of resignation of a BFUHS board member. And then A, could be resignation and appointment, and B would be election. Would that be okay for you then? Rob?
Yes.
Okay.
So, so I know under, when you were 8, the board goals and norms, I know that we were going to talk about that under 5, WNESU bylaws, which was gonna be no action.
Right, and I'm asking for, again, unfinished business, board goals and norms with action required, or action needed.
And then okay, I can roll with that. Go ahead, Deb.
Order, I hate to keep doing it. So I want to ask, does Rob have the intention of passing us documentation which we will not have time to study tonight to require action? That's what I'm asking. Before we see the board goals, I don't think we would vote on it unless we had actually, unless we've seen the content. That's what I'm asking. Will we be seeing content?
So I know I did pass out the bylaws from Cheryl that they're working on at the WNESU. And I know that we want to get to a place where there's board goals and norms, but I thought it would be best to wait until those are done and then we could add on to those if we wanted to. But if Rob wants to do that tonight, we certainly can.
It's really, to me, we all have a vote, and I think we've talked about it and it hasn't taken place. I think we ought to have a vote whether we want board goals or norms, or if we don't.
Without them being in place in front of us.
We will not know. It's all of our work, possibly, if that's what we
That's,
choose
I
to
just
do.
want to be clear
Absolutely.
about what
Great
we're
question.
doing next. So,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, anything else? Anybody? All right, so next up is number 6, review and approve board minutes for September 11th and 19th. I'd like to take one at a time. Let's first look at September 11th.
I can make a motion to pass, to approve, Monday, September 11th with the addition on page 3 of 3,
All right.
3 of 5.
Right.
3 of 5, sorry. That I think it's important that, on Fact TV's, broadcast, 1 hour, 41 minutes and 10 seconds in on Fact TV video, you can hear, Priscilla say, ooh, she caught herself, but I think that is important to be in the actual document, in the minutes.
Where does that come in? Down at the bottom of the page?
Yep,
Oh, I see.
and on to the page,
Next
the top of 4 or 5.
Is there anything else, Jen?
That's all I had for that one.
And she made you made the motion, June?
Yes.
I believe that's a transcription of it, so I don't think that would be an accurate thing to do, but you can do what you want.
Which, was it these notes, the 11th or the 19th, where, it said that I was able to vote?
No, that's the next one.
Next one, okay. All right, I strike that comment. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, Deb?
On the same page at the top. We asked about when Kelly was doing her reporting, that she explained about the 74 students who are seniors, but only 59 graduated. And I remember distinctly asking that the principal prepare a document that we can look at that in writing, so showing the numbers. Because in particular, one student didn't finish because their education wasn't complete, which means they didn't make the 28 credits. I think it's important for us to pay attention to that from year to year. We don't. But I think in order for us to provide funding for better action, so that more students can graduate and don't walk away from school, I think I was asking that we have a document. It's not very big, but that we have it in writing, so we can refer to it if you, because it was in the minute, I asked it, so I'd like to see it in the minutes.
So can you just restate one more time what you would like to have?
Okay, I asked that the principal provide specific numbers in writing to board members. On that item, that second bullet point underneath.
I think she did in her report.
Where was
In
it?
her
Is it in the
In the
report? Did I miss
principal's
it in the report?
report. It just isn't
My
in the
apologies.
minute. It just isn't in the
It
minute.
should be in the minute, but I'll go back to the report, because I apparently didn't get it already.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to pass the minutes with those corrections. Jamie, let's start on your side if we could.
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Phil?
No.
Dave? Yes. June?
Yes.
Fine?
Yes.
Darcy?
Yeah.
And Deb?
Aye.
Okay, next up, we have the minutes for the 19th. Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written on, for Tuesday, September 19th, with the addition or the correction on page 2 of 5 under Jason's comments, I think it's the 7th line down. It says I was allowed to vote, and it should say I was not allowed to vote. That's all I have for that one.
Anything else, anybody? Rob?
Yeah, I would like, these minutes came out this afternoon. I would like to table these minutes for the next meeting so that we have a chance. I have not had a chance to print them out and look through them, so I'm not, I would hope that we would have the minutes if we're going to approve them by the time we get the agenda, which is usually the Friday before. So I would like to ask that, since, and maybe I'm only speaking for myself, but I have not had a chance to fully print out and read these minutes.
Good. I would like to ask a procedure question. Who of my senior board members, what goes first, the motion or the table?
The table.
The table does?
And she could rescind her motion too.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to table. That's correct, David?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let's vote. Let's vote on that. Rob would like to table the minutes until the next board meeting.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is anyone else in Rob's shoes? So you didn't get it printed? Okay,
It came out this afternoon.
Yeah,
This afternoon.
yeah,
And I feel like
Yeah.
we should not have minutes given to us,
great.
a day, even a couple days, but if it's Friday before the weekend, I think that's fair for us to have time to look over.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to table these minutes until the next regular scheduled board meeting.
I would like to withdraw my motion to accept with corrections and as a friendly amendment to Rob's amendment to table until the next meeting.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor to table. Deb? How would you like to vote?
We're voting? If she's rescinding her motion, there's no vote.
You're good. All right, table. Short table.
Table.
Thank you. That was easy. All right. Okay, next up, new business for discussion, censure.
Can I add that we still have not got 7:18 minutes either? So you might want to add those.
So,
The corrections.
yeah, so I was, I was told by Nicole that we would not need to re-vote on them because we voted on them. She said she would,
Correction.
yeah,
Well, we never voted on 7:18.
okay, we can
We
check.
vote on 7:24 was the one she was correcting. 7:18 we've
I'll
never
check
seen.
on that. I apologize. I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. 7:18 was that meeting that was Tuesday night,
Right,
and we've never gotten them.
All right.
but I think they've been posted.
Can't find them.
So Andy, you're gonna check on that for
I
us?
will check on that and get back to you.
All right, thank you, Priscilla.
And
I thought they were on the high school website.
that's okay. In here, it doesn't, it has them listed, and we did not vote on them because we hadn't had them in here. And that's why I think you've missed it. I think it was just an oversight because on the front of this 9/11 ones, it refers to 7:18. But if you'll remember that night, we didn't have them, so we approved all the others.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla.
That's what
Yeah, no problem.
thing had happened.
All right, next up, we have, new business of discussion, censure of a board member, action needed. So, I think, Andy, I need to pass the torch again, or how does this work again? From, Pietro?
I think
Do I
we can begin
state-
the discussion, and if you feel you need to, then you can do
Okay.
that.
So, I'm bringing this back to the board, not last week that ended, to me was ended, put away and moving forward. But after that meeting, the very next day, Priscilla was in looking to speak with guidance, and then using family members to speak with guidance about stuff, whatever. She was then sent an email from administration, from Kelly to, you know, hey, we're really busy. You know, if you need something, is this the proper channels and procedures? And then, there was some email exchange back and forth, back and forth. Andy jumped in with email and then just an email dialogue back and forth. And then later on that day, because, later on that day, then there was a phone call looking to speak with, Ms. Carlson, at guidance. And then, you know, Andy was pretty clear in his direction that, hey, Priscilla, if you need something or Mr. Lambert needs something, then, you know, let's follow the proper channels and, you know, let's do that. And so my point is this, is that we as board members are supposed to follow the rules. And some of the rules are, you're not supposed to come into the building and be asking all sorts of questions, gathering information on your own and doing investigation work. We proceed in the light. We're trying to change how we're viewed as a board, and that's part of norms that we want to, you know, that we want to, normal operating procedure that we want to do. And, you know, so then, I mean, it was the next day after the meeting we had last week. And so I'm not sure, and I don't think that that is going to change, because that's happened numerous occasions, several times. And, you know, we have to act in a professional manner and do things correctly. You know, and Priscilla, you know, frankly, I think you should resign. I think that's what I think, and I don't think you will. So I think that we need to take a stand. And, I think it's time that, you know, we censure you.
Can I ask a question? please?
Well, you need a motion on the floor.
Can I ask a
So-
question first, please?
So I would like, to entertain a motion. Do we entertain a motion or do we?
Discuss it.
You can discuss, I mean, you should have a motion.
There should be a motion on the floor.
So I would like to, you know, if somebody like to. put
Under
it-
Robert's rules for small boards, the chair can make motions, please.
Okay, so I would like to, make a motion that we, censure Priscilla, for her actions the next day after the meeting we had last week. For, you know, policy procedure or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what that would say, but I think that we need to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we censure Priscilla Lambert, for her behavior. That's my motion. Any discussion?
Understanding that that censure is a public reprimand. And then it brings no other action to bear. That any further action is up to the board member who is being censured. Just making it clear for the public what that means. And that's my piece right now. I know she wants to speak.
So I would need to,
Nope, you're good, now you can open it up for discussion.
I'd like to open it for discussion, please. Any discussion? Anyone?
Do you want to read my email to them?
Well,
The motion's been on the floor. As a board member, I would like to hear from the other person to be able to give us information so that we can, as a board, because I haven't been involved in communication, I've been involved in emails. I would like to have both sides, if they feel necessary, to talk about it before I make my decision one way or the other.
I agree. I would like to hear that as well, so. Floor is yours, Priscilla.
in the first place, I would personally would like to move to postpone the motion until I've had the opportunity to become aware and deal with the specific charges, because I'm kind of sitting here shocked, and to prepare a response. With that said, I will at least read the email that I sent, because it really was not my questions. I sent this to Mark because Mark is skilled in that area. And I also thought Andrew could answer his questions. My husband asked a couple questions on the Flex pathways I could not answer. I thought with your knowledge and background, you would be good to ask. Please call me, or if restricted in talking to board members, you can call him. And I gave him the phone number to call.
I'm sorry, Mark, who?
I was trying to follow procedures. He spoke to me, and Dave was going to do questions, but he's called counselors in other districts instead. I think he also had some other questions he was going to direct to Andy, and hasn't gotten to it.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
I was under the understanding that if any of us board members wanted any information from the school, they had to go through the chairperson.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then, Jim, can I
It
ask,
wasn't me.
so has that happened before? Where
Yeah.
people have gone directly to administration
Yes.
without going to the chair?
And there's been times when they've called the company that we're in the process of negotiating with on their own and not gone through the proper channels.
Or are you saying it might be a pattern of behavior?
I would say so.
But I think that's kind of the point, like, you know, I mean, honestly, you're masking around the fact that, you know, you're using, you know, David as asking the questions, but they're really coming from you, and you as a board chair on another board would know that you shouldn't do that, and so even whether we vote to censure or not, I don't know if that's gonna change irrespective, so I think that we need to take
Can
a
I, in
stand.
my defense, say that Andy said that to me, and I did nothing more, absolutely nothing more.
Correct.
I wasn't thinking about it being me asking, so I didn't think it was a problem, but once Andy said he thought it was, I did not. So on that issue, if you want to rebuke me for it, that you will have to do. But anyway, if you want to do that, it's up to you. I would like time to talk to legal counsel, but because that would be my rights, but. It's up to
Oh, sorry.
Priscilla, I just really feel like that we all want to work together, support our school, and so to some extent, I can see, I mean, I'm just hearing about this tonight as well. And so to some extent, I would expect that you would have wanted to bring it up, like, can I set up an appointment to talk to guidance or talk to the board about it somehow? So
I stopped, dear. I really did.
but you came into school,
No, I
called.
sent an email. That's all. And I read it to you.
but you weren't in the school at all.
No.
Thank you for clarifying.
So this doesn't pertain to censor or not censor, but I would hope all of us, to Darcy's point, and a little bit of June's, is if we're gonna continue to work collaboratively and be transparent, and I mean fully transparent as a board, 100% or close as we can, not transparent with convenience, then I really hope that this is a shot for all of us to look within ourselves and say, okay, am I representing this community? Am I representing the people that have voted for me? or for us? And then am I making sure that I have best practices as a board member? Because I think and it's not to one person at this table. So it's multiple people, a few people that have done this as well. So part of me feels like it's coming up now for, I'm not sure the reasons, but it's not specific to one person in my opinion. So I just want to make the point, let's all be very mindful moving forward, whether it's censored or not, that we take our position, which is a volunteer position, seriously. And that we best represent because, and I'm not afraid to say this, if this was a class at this school and it talked about governance and expectations and objectives and how we're grading, I would ask what kind of grade this board, me included, would get. Not asking for an answer, I'm just stating that. And so and I believe Mike Stack at a previous meeting said, if we're going to act like this, how would we want people to respect and trust that we're gonna make decisions in the best interest of our taxpayers, our students, our faculty, and our administration, and our supervisory? And that's a deeper question that I think we need to ask. And again, you all know where I'm going. Let's develop where we're going.
So, Rob, to answer you and to what Citizen Stack has said was, if we want the administration and staff to realize that we want stuff from them and to operate in the light, we can't have board members going rogue and doing things, especially the veteran board members that know the process and procedure, and it has continued, and we're trying to do things correctly. That's been the mission, to do things in a normal operating procedure, and if the procedure is to ask the board chair to get you information, I've been doing that. So it's not because we don't like the information, or we don't just go and investigate stuff on your own. And it's unfortunate. Nobody wants to be here again. This is yet another meeting of a waste of time. When we should be talking about PCBs or something else. Yeah.
I hear you, but I also don't think this is to a single situation.
It is this time, yes. It is this time because we just had a meeting and it was, it felt, I can't send out emails alerting everybody what's going on. That'd be wrong of me to send an email. But when you see something and you're like, literally less than 12 hours later, we're in, emailing or asking a bunch of questions and then saying, using somebody else as the person getting questions for it. When we all know what the ulterior motive was, so I don't know if it's ever gonna change, so that's why I'm calling for this section. Anyway. There's a motion, you can vote it up, vote it down, whatever you want to do. Like to call a question then?
Yes, I will call the question, but I do want to say that this is not just about what happened after the 19th. We've had 3 meetings where we're wasting, I don't know, an hour or close to, on the same subject, which goes on, and there's no resolution. So the board as a whole needs to make some decision about what goes next, because even a censure does nothing to correct bad behavior and things that have been going on for some time, off and on for some time, as there are more aged members on here who've been here for several years. So we need to do something, make something. So I will now call the question. Let's get it on.
Call the question. Deb, how do you vote?
Censure. I'll say aye.
Darcy?
Hi,
Tanya?
I guess.
What? Sorry, Nate.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Jim?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes,
Rob,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
the motion was to postpone.
Who changed the motion?
I did.
Did we or didn't we?
There was no adoption of that.
I
No one
said I
adopted it.
moved to postpone this motion until I've had the opportunity to get legal advice about the charges against me.
I did not accept that. Rob,
We didn't.
I think if indeed that's the case, we need to go back and revise it and fix it. But I think again, we're getting down a rabbit hole about this stuff. I think it was pretty clear to me that we were censoring without any
Yeah.
motion, any adoption.
I don't,
So I asked the chair to please redefine the motion.
So the motion I have on the floor is to censure Priscilla Lambert for behavior.
Now can I call the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I.
Darcy,
I,
Tanya,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Dave, yes, so,
no,
Rob,
Yes.
and Jamie.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2,
Wait, I have another motion under the same subject.
okay,
I move that because of Priscilla Lambert's continued abuse of the budget committee members, we, the BFUHS board, propose she immediately recuse herself from future budget committee meetings.
can you say that
That
one more
makes sense?
time?
Okay.
Louder,
I move that because of Priscilla Lambert's continued abuse of the budget committee members, we, the BFUHS board, propose she immediately recuse herself from future budget committee meetings.
all right, is there any discussion on that motion? David?
Yes, sir. Heaven help me, because I supported the censure, and actually, at least a few members around the table, including you, Priscilla, are aware that I signaled that intention to you in advance. However, I do believe, and I realize some people at the table may be disappointed to hear this. It's my opinion that Priscilla Lambert did, and actually for that matter, David Lambert, did provide useful input at our last meeting. And I will go so far as to say that I think that we would really, with all due respect to you, Deb, because I actually think that you have a very good handle on procedure. I do think that before we were to undertake a vote like this, that we should have advice of counsel about our ability to actually restrict a member's access to meetings. I think that's something that we should be taking legal advice on. And in saying this, I'm not at all asking Deb to withdraw the motion, because I think it has been made with serious intent. However, I will not be able to support it because of my concerns as to its legality.
Can I offer a name amendment?
Ask the maker.
So I know I talked to Pietro last week about it, and he said for non-committee members, they should speak only at public comment and to keep it consistent across the board. And I know that we're a little loose with that, and that's probably something we gotta fix when we get into bylaws and norms and stuff like that. So I think that would be, if we're being consistent across all of the issues, I think that'd be great. But anyway, actually, I'm not making a friendly amendment. Or a speaker.
If I could speak to my motion,
Yeah, please.
which is a matter that this whole thing came up now 3 meetings ago because of the budget committee and the abusive behavior going back and forth. It would be simpler if written documentation were sent to the budget committee meetings, or if maybe a fact version was available, but because of the behavior, that is the reason why I made this motion in the first place. And thinking that eliminating those budget meetings, budget committee meetings would simmer down the situation.
Okay.
Can I,
So go first.
can you ask, David to speak to the fact that I apologized when I went to the budget committee this week? And I only spoke as a community member, but I spoke to that. Can you at least do that much?
Please, David.
The chair will recognize me.
I recognize you.
Yes, that is correct. Priscilla did in fact preface her remarks on the budget committee with an apology.
Thank you both. Rob? We have a motion on the floor.
This is Deb, and your motion?
Yes.
Deb, are you referring to, recusing of all in person, all meeting, or,
All future budget committee meetings,
so that would be hybrid or?
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
that's what it said.
That's as a board member for involvement, but
Well, the
Priscilla or
problem
anyone's
is
allowed.
it's the same person. She's in the public. The behavior is still the same, coming from the same person, so you may have apologized, but I've heard that's continued since, so that's why I made this. You can do what you like.
Rob?
So my question is, I guess, back to you, Deb, is
Yeah.
as a community member, would she have the right to come to the meeting? And if she wanted to, just like any other community member, speak for the 2 minutes on any topic, just like we would open this up to anyone? That's a question.
Yeah, well, the question was, I didn't put the board member Priscilla in, but I put Priscilla in. The reason being because whether it's, and she said, it's in the public, it's still there's still been problems, so that was why this motion, if the motion fails, so be it. But I just think it would be better for the budget committee to go forward and make the recommendations to this board without any further commotion.
So can you reread your motion for me?
Well, it says, I move that because of Priscilla Lambert's continued abuse of the budget committee members, we, the BFUHS board, propose she immediately recuse herself from future budget committee meetings. That's it.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor. Rob?
Yeah, sorry to ask so many questions, but I want it to be across the minutes that I agree with what David said. I don't know the legal ramifications of this. And so I think there's a difference between a board member that we can take action on and then actually a community member who is a taxpayer. So I would love some clarification on what our potential rights would be or opportunity would be to do that.
Are you offering a friendly amendment to that? Okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Deb,
Call the question?
call the question.
Aye.
Darcy?
Aye.
Bonnie?
Abstain.
June?
Aye.
David? No. Priscilla?
No.
Rob?
No.
Jamie?
Abstain.
1, 2, 3, yes. No vote.
That's right.
2, 3, no.
He can either vote or not vote.
You had 2 abstain.
Oops, and so it's 3, 3, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I vote yes. Okay. Next topic, new business, number 2. Behavior of community member at high school meeting 9/19/23. So it was reported that after the meeting, there was a brief altercation, language from a community member to a board member. And I think that's something we need to be cautious of, and, you know, we need to make sure that stuff like that doesn't happen. We're trying to do things correctly, as best we can and navigate through all of this. And we wouldn't want our children to see something like that. So you know, it was reported to me by several board members, so that is why we're discussing this, tonight. I don't really have anything else to discuss on it, just that it can't happen. Anybody else like to discuss it, or? Yeah,
But think that after an assault, that person wouldn't come back to the meetings. That's simply what, a simple assault. Whether you like it or not, that's what happened. People get upset and angry and things occur. That is also because there were so many people here after the meeting was over on 9/19 and continued conversation was going on. Technically an open meeting law violation. Because you had a quorum of board members. So that's a concern as well.
I think it would be best that maybe we direct the superintendent to maybe look into it further. And to investigate it. That's my opinion. I didn't know if anyone would want to make a motion to that Andy would, look into it and maybe do whatever he needs to do.
Would that,
Go ahead, Jenny.
would that be the action needed?
Yes. I hope so.
I'll make a motion to have Superintendent Haas look into the legal ramifications of the behavior of a community member after the meeting of 9/19/23 against a board member.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?
How much time does that take to do? How much more time is sort of wasted on resources?
May I answer?
Please.
I mean, it would probably, I did not witness anything, so I would probably be reaching out to have an independent investigation done. And so it'd just be a matter of, asking an administrator from another district to just collect the, do typically what we do as administrators, collect all the information and make a recommendation to the board. So, I would look to have something as fast as possible, so, by our next board meeting.
But there's a cost ramification to this as well,
Could.
or is it, okay?
Good.
Darcy, do you have a hand up? No question? Anyone else? All right, the motion on the floor. I'm starting this side. Okay, Jane,
No,
Rob,
No.
Priscilla,
No.
David,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Darcy,
Yes.
Deb.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. Thank you, everybody. Okay, next
Really
up,
decent business.
number 3, ratification of hiring Larry Slayson, action needed. So, we did we had a meeting, and I did forward this to everyone because it's going to be on tonight's topic, and I'm asked to keep everyone up to date with PCB stuff. Did everyone get a chance to read the internal memo from Larry that he did the meeting Thursday or Friday? If not, I would like to kind of read it real quick. If anyone has any questions or summarize it. Yes,
One question.
Jim, go ahead.
LGS, is that Larry Slayson?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, in a nutshell, and maybe Kelly, maybe you could help, because you're also with the stuff. So there was a meeting between Greg and was Evan there too?
Chris.
Chris, and Kelly was on the Zoom, Andy, myself, and those two guys, and we met in, I was in Larry's office. And we basically, Larry asked a lot of pointed, direct questions on how we're going to speed up, and, he was not, as one of his words was, not too concerned with the minutia as far as how long it was going to take. And so, he was laser focused on what our objectives were, which is to mitigate, remediate, and get back to normal operating procedures as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. Kelly, does that sound about right? Okay, and then he asked a bunch of questions, and then he felt comfortable with their responses and understood what their job was, their role was, and and then he also agreed that they're working as quickly as possible to do what they can. I can't remember specific, but there was one specific about something that maybe it was a testing or something that was the turnaround time was rather quick compared to what he had experienced before. So everyone is basically working very hard on it, and Larry felt pretty comfortable with it. We left kind of bummed that December is, I guess, when they might be able to start digging into for the gym or something like that. Is that about right? And then maybe the summer to start remediating as soon as but they got to find the problem first. They talked about the roof and what they're going to try to test up there. But the good part also, I remember him saying, was that with the gym and auditorium closed, sectioned off, if they do find something, then maybe they can, as it's still closed off, to start if possible. So the good news is working on it. The bad news is it's not tomorrow. Jennifer,
Who is Chris Glowacki?
And so Chris and Greg work for VHB,
Oh, okay.
which is the environmental hygienist. That's the consultant.
Consultant.
So
Okay, all right.
that's what I just wanted to clarify, because I figured that question was not consultant.
David?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that Bellows Falls Union High School Board ratify the hiring of Larry Slayson to represent our interests in matters regarding PCB mitigation and remediation.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion? Rob?
Yeah, I just want clarification that if we are hiring Larry, who's a community member, and I think did a great job of his presentation when he came, that we are not going to be leaning on our other attorney for PCB matters at all. I'm more thinking of the cost of this. If we're going to be looking at PCBs, then Larry Slayson and his firm would be where that money's going. We're not going to be looking at PCBs on both.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak to my motion?
Please.
Okay, and perhaps I can provide some illumination. Well, of course, I'm speaking to the chair when I'm addressing the member here, but I believe that the clear intent has been to allow Pietro Lynn to continue to advise the school on all legal matters involving school, and also obviously to concentrate on his suit. I'm going to try to keep my remarks focused here. I believe that it was clear intent that Larry Slayson's hire would be strictly to advise the high school as to how we can move most efficiently forward on addressing PCB issues. It's my personal belief that given Larry's extensive experience in environmental remediation, that overall his services will represent a savings to the district in terms of legal costs, addressing PCBs, leaving Attorney Lynn free to work in his specific area of expertise, which is ed law and is not environmental remediation, that we are therefore addressing our resources more efficiently with regards to how we spend money on legal services. That is why I brought the motion. I think that he is the best man for the job. I think putting in the work for us will save us money overall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. channeling it here too.
Anything else, Ron? Good. All right, motion on the floor. Deb, how do you vote?
Aye.
First,
Aye.
Don?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
David? Yes. Priscilla?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And Jamie?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Next up, PCB update. Kelly, if I forgot anything, jump in, let us know what's going on. Thank you for all your work you're doing.
A couple pieces, so we did have the BHB mitigation specialists on site this Wednesday and Thursday. They conducted their secondary air sampling here in the D wing. They were super supportive as always, including one of their colleagues who was there here on site collecting those samples. I think was voluntold to rush them down to the Springfield lab to help expedite the lab processing. So we still remain hopeful that we'll get those preliminary results maybe as early as tomorrow, but likely Wednesday, but certainly by the end of this week. Again, that's just going to give us some indication of how that interim mitigation work has been going just in the D wing. So we'll keep you posted just as soon as we get those results. We have, we're expecting our final shipment of carbon filters today for the C wing. It's on the phone right up till 6:15. Those are MIA. They've disappeared off the manifest. I'm reassured that they're in Concord and or in close proximity. They're just working on sourcing them for me at the moment. There are a few exchanges. So I'm hopeful that they will be here tomorrow. Again, that's the rest of the units we're waiting for in the C wing. So choir, band, some of the offices along that main hallway and just kind of filling in those spaces. Once those units are in place, running for a minimum of a week, then VHB will come back to conduct that secondary air sampling in that space. One of the other things that I've put forward and have support with from the Department of Environmental Conservation is working to create a plan to turn down the filters in the D wing during the academic day. And so one of the things that Jeff Potter, Director of Maintenance, and I are working on is a plan to do that. So someone making a rounds, dedicated staff member making a rounds to recalibrate the units, maybe to 50%, 70%, that's a little bit TBD, but basically to modify the noise levels in the primary academic spaces when they're being occupied, to then include a plan, a very clear plan for someone to go back around and recalibrate those machines at the end of the academic day. The EC and VHB has indicated support for that, as long as our preliminary or secondary air samples come back and say that, yes, it's working. One of the things that they also agreed to do and to provide, to pay for is when they come back and do the secondary air sampling in the C wing, they would also conduct additional air sampling in the D wing with those recalibrated units to make sure that those are still being effective into the air quality in this space. So I really appreciated their flexibility and support with that. The other thing that we're looking at is, again, the units are loud, right? Again, some folks appreciate the filtering, what the filtering does to the classrooms. Others are continuing to struggle. I also want to honor that some of my colleagues and team members, right, teaching, doing a lot of the talking in classes, right? It's hard, it takes a toll. And so I've been working with Ricky Adams, Director of IT, on getting a demo in for some voice amplification units. So these were around in schools, right, especially during COVID with masking to kind of help teachers in particular with articulation and to support students with the ability to hear. So they have some classroom specific voice amplification units. So we will have someone on site hopefully by the end of this week to kind of walk us through some possibilities there for long-term use here in the D wing in particular for the duration of the year. So that's another thing we're continuing to look at. We still have the tents leased through the 25th of October, so we still have those at our disposal should we continue to need them. I appreciate that added flexibility given where we're getting our timing, where we're getting our testing and how long we have those. So we still have a buffer of time if we need to pivot more outside, if the testing results indicate a need to do so. The other thing we've worked on is we've continued to explore conversations with modular companies So we did formally proceed with renting 4 modulars. We expect that those will be here on site sometime the week of the 1st of October. Yeah, I think they're gonna ship around the 2nd or the 4th, but they're within the region, will be delivered. And so those 4 units are primarily gonna support the transportation, office, pivoting outdoors. That allows, again, PE to kind of more formally expand into that space and have a formal home for the duration of the year, including all the stuff coming out of the gym that's safe to bring out. The second modular will be going to support services, so that'll free up another space in the building for the high school's use. And then we've got 2 modulars units coming to serve as a boys and girls locker room. So a winterized, heated, lighted space. So we're working to identify the best locations for those 4 modulars. Part of that conversation, again, is a contingency plan. We have also primed them for the possibility that if our air results come back for the D-wing in particular and indicate a need to close further spaces, having them kind of at the ready to deploy additional units. So we are still having those conversations, though we do not anticipate needing it. Those conversations are open and ongoing. The other thing to preview is, I guess, 2 things. One is we did get clarification that despite being initially told that we would have to test any rental spaces that we wanted to pursue and receive compensation for, they've rescinded that expectation, which is very helpful to our planning purposes. I'm grateful for that. The other thing to preview is the University of Iowa has been working with various schools throughout Vermont on PCB testing. And one of the things that they're going to do, again, this is fully funded through the University of Iowa and the state, there's no money coming from us, is they will be coming on into our building, I think around the 20th or 21st of October, in consultation with the Department of Environmental Conservation to deploy some additional air sampling units specific to the gym and the auditorium. And one of the ways that that's the mitigation specialists, when we ran that by them, they were really excited about the work. They felt like that additional air sampling in those spaces would help inform the source investigation that they're going to do in those spaces beginning in November or December. So it's very little, skin off our back, so to speak, right? And we just need to make sure someone's here, let them in on the weekend that they're coming. Happy to do that. Kind of get them set up in the building to get those pieces in place. Those monitors will be in place for about a month. And then they'll be shipped back to the University of Iowa, and they will work in consultation with the DEC and our mitigation specialists to, inform the work moving forward. So, yes, that's a quick summary of where we're at right now.
Could I just add, the work with like modular classrooms, if we needed to go that route, is a minimum of 2 months lead time. So that's why we began that conversation now. And as Kelly said, we have no intention, but we knew we had to have that conversation. The other one is I spoke with Connor Bean this afternoon, and he is still working on securing venues. It's quite a task. We've got many teams between middle school and high school that need access to places. And so that's an ongoing conversation even with the state, DEC and the state, because transportation becomes an issue, right? As we mentioned, we don't want to, some of our space, we don't want to have practice at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, right? Kids are getting home late, but then also do we even have drivers that can do that? And then do we have to outsource that drive? Again, it could be reimbursable, but we don't know at this point, so.
I also forgot on a related note with that, and then one other point is in our conversation with the DEC, I followed up with Evan Pendleton. He has a phone call this Thursday with an organization in New Hampshire that can help provide some temporary bubbles, right? So some outdoor structures that could be used. For
Small ones.
I think these are the bigger ones that could potentially be an 8 to 9 month winterized gym, for example. So I've asked that they do some of the legwork and investigation on that, and he's totally willing and happy to do that. So I should have an update on that at the end of the week. Those are weather resistant. Yeah, they're pretty hardy. Yeah.
You
So
see a lot of them over ice hockey rinks and
Oh,
indoor
okay,
tennis courts
okay.
where they have it in the off season, then they take it down.
So that's another kind of point of investigation that's
Especially the
happening.
hotels and things like that and country clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're up for like months and
Yeah.
it's amazing how they keep things warm.
Yeah, yeah.
This may have been discussed at the,
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
this may have been discussed at the budget meeting, so forgive me if you all have to repeat yourself, but, how are we paying for some of these things? How are we paying for some of these things, I guess, knowing that, you know, later, hopefully we are going to get reimbursed, but where are we getting the funds for this? You know?
Yeah, we have a dedicated PCB line. Do you want to speak to that?
Currently being charged to a dedicated PCB line, that is running negative because there's nothing budgeted to it, but
Yeah.
I mean, the AOE has indicated that there will be an opportunity very shortly for us to begin requesting reimbursement, for those funds. But where are they coming from? They're coming out of the high schools, like capital reserves,
Okay,
funds
yeah.
that you have available.
Yes.
Good question. Thank you. Jim?
Is there a reason why we can't start looking into the source of the PCBs? Why we have to wait until November or December to look into the source when we will have our second air sample, which will hopefully be good by the end of this week?
I mean, my understanding is that's what the scientists are telling us, that that's the route that they're taking, and that the Department of Health, Department of Environmental Conservation has put the procedures that are in place. Some of it also has to do with what's in statute, as far as what is reimbursable and how the state and the legislators put statute in place on testing for PCBs. So, we've asked that question repeatedly, why not, and but, type of thing. And my understanding is that the mitigating factors, if the machines work and reduce the air particulates in the D wing, everything, that helps them to understand they don't need to focus there at all. They need to pivot and they can focus other places. But if it doesn't come down, could mean that they have to look at places in there. So
It just, to me, seems like a stall technique for the state of Vermont to figure out how they're going to pay for the remediation. And maybe we should sick Larry on them to move it. I mean, we'll have our second air quality. I've talked to other states which said that all of this can be done simultaneously. So it just seems fishy to me that the state will not let us start trying to figure out where their problem is before November, December.
Other person.
Well, let me yield to my distinguished colleague, Rocky Man, and then I'll unload.
So I think it's important maybe to know the carbon filters are not in the auditorium or the gym, so we have no testing. We only have the first test on that. Is that accurate?
they their recommendation was to begin testing or begin mitigating factors in the academic wing, because that's where our students and staff work.
Right, but to June's point, I think they have to go through that testing, and then if it comes down, no,
No.
we're not gonna test those
You
areas?
can't- well, they tested that area. That's how they got the results.
Right,
They're not going to put carbon filters in there because the amount of carbon filters that you would need in there, because they're doing 6 air exchanges an hour. So the volume of that room, I don't know the actual number, but they kind of mentioned you would need a tremendous amount of those machines to do that amount of work that we need for that volume. So I think their intent is to go immediately to source testing as soon as they
in
can.
those areas, do those, okay.
Good question, Rob. Thanks. David? Okay.
A couple things I want to get out here. One is that I do agree with June that we should have Larry running interference on this for us. Secondly, I just want to point out to the board that State Senator Nader Hashim has been unusually helpful to us, with regard to unwinding fact from fiction with regard to exactly what the legislature's intent is and what funds are available to implement with. So I think we need to stay in contact with Notter. I do want to raise a concern around the legal side of the issue, and that is that we were cautioned very specifically by Pietro Lynn when he was in via Zoom about a month ago, that when we took actions with regards to mitigation and mediation, we had an obligation to notify Monsanto of those actions through the auspices of Pietro Lynn. And I'm not certain that having the University of Iowa in here running independent tests would necessarily infringe on that requirement. However, I do think it's a good idea, as this is legal, to just check in with Pietro and say, hey, Pietro, is this okay? And make sure that legal with regards to litigation issues, which is the end of PCBs that Pietro is handling for us, that they have legal has some idea of what's up and let us know if we're looking at any hidden road mines. Okay? And I'm really speaking, Kelly, to the board. You know, the administration can glean what they want to for that information, not really trying to hand you more work.
Jason, yep. So we have already done that. Every time anything we do, for our communication, we CC Larry and we CC Pietro Lynn's office. So every time. So when we come to you and say, hey, we have the University of Iowa coming in, we've got DEC approval, right? So that's one part. But we also have, as far as with Pietro's office, they've given the blessing as well. So anything we're doing, so Pietro's office notifies Monsanto, Monsanto says, yeah, go ahead, and then we do it. If it takes more than a day, that's a long time on the turnaround with a conversation with Monsanto. Iowa has been coming into many schools in Vermont. So Monsanto was like, sure, so it happens pretty darn fast, but we do check in every time we do something to ensure that we're not putting us in any kind of jeopardy.
Mr. Chair, please, David. Okay. I hope that the minutes can reflect the members' response was good. Okay, all right, good. We're getting it done. Thank you.
Kelly, did you have anything else? Because I could have swore there's a bunch of emails, and I'm pretty sure that there is emails in there that say, you know, checks and balances, and I know that when the conference call to June's question with Larry was, he's really pushing to what you're saying, like, let's go, we want to fix the school. So I felt satisfied that he felt satisfied with that response. None of us liked it, but that was, the response. So that's why we hired him. Kelly?
I mean, I think I have a question, and depending on how the question is answered, a concern about that call with Larry, in that he had specifically stated, and I think this is a direct quote, that we have no intention of following the long-term remediation recommendations being put forward. And so my question, I found that alarming, to be honest. And so my question is, who is the we in that statement? Like, was he in that moment speaking on behalf of the board and in noting that whatever the remediation recommendations are that are put forward, they're not going to be honored? Or was he speaking out of turn?
I think that's a great question. I do remember hearing that, but I heard it as we had no intention of waiting 5 years to, really spell this out, because I think that's where, and we'd have to ask him specifically, but that was what I thought I heard was we have no intention of the community, the school, the students having to wait 5 years for them to say, oh yeah, this is the this is the plan 5 years from now. I could be wrong, we should probably ask him to clarify that.
I would appreciate that. He did say when he was here and presented that it's his experience that these mediation firms come up with a bunch of different scenarios and run each scenario through, and that takes a lot of time, so. But I think we should clarify.
It's a great question. Darcy, since you're also taking notes, can you write that down so I can follow up with him, please? Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else, Kevin? All right, thank you. All right, committee updates. June, could you please give us the WNSU 2-minute recap?
2 minute, okay.
Or whatever.
We went through the bylaws, we had a huge discussion. A lengthy discussion, the bylaw committee will review them again and take them to the SU board, and eventually they'll trickle down to the individual boards in the district to vote on them. There was a long discussion on whether or not we should join VSBA, which Andy, you're gonna have to tell me what those Vermont State
School Board
Association. The annual cost for being a member is $7,500, which gives us access, to all the members. Some things that they offer are regional panels on Attendees, provides us with our insurance, lobbies legislature for boards, policies, they have legal services, they have superintendent search services, they have formats to review the supers. The SU board voted to rejoin that. Jim at the business office, they're still working on transitioning over to the new system. It is very slow process. They know that there's still a lot of errors out there. One of the issues he brought up were the contracts, the way the contracts are written, so we may want to be more mindful of that negotiations. November 30th, we should have the report, the auditor's report in hand. And I believe, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the bylaws, and they consulted with Pietro. We have to vote at a high school level to put David on the board, or whomever on our board, on the SU, as the SU rep. And that's pretty much the meeting in a nutshell.
Thank you, Jim. All right, up next was the bylaws, WNSU bylaws, no action. So on that committee is Cheryl, Priscilla, and Chris Kivy. I think that's correct. And they're working very hard on taking the bylaws that we have and updating them. And what they're gonna do is at that meeting, they're gonna vote, that WNSU board is gonna vote on bylaws, and they're kind of like rules that are kind of gonna govern us. And then they go down to each board, and then we get a chance to look at them as well and vote on them. It's kind of trying to be consistent across the board. So, applaud the people that are working on those. It's not easy working on that stuff. So, so that's the hope, and that's why I didn't have on the agenda originally was the norms, because I was when I was talking with Cheryl, when Rob asked for the agenda item, she had mentioned that I heard it as we should probably do that first, and then we can always add on to it. So I think they're both going to be good, and I think we need a better set of checks and balances for ourselves, which is not a bad thing. So that was that on the bylaws. David, could I ask you, please, since you were temporary chair, so last budget meeting, give us an update?
Okay, budget met. We had 2 committee members present.
Jason and myself. Also for administration, we had Andy Koss and Kelly O'Ryan. We had both Dave and Priscilla Lambert in the room. We had Mike Stacking. Help me here, Jamie. I believe you were in the Zoom as well, weren't you? At budget?
No,
Okay,
but that's good to know. I didn't know budget wasn't there.
all right. Well, good. You didn't miss a great deal, but it was still interesting. How's that for response? Probably the main event was that we did have a representative from New Solutions K-12. And he was the third Dave in the room, if you want to include Zoom participation. And it was actually very interesting, because what the board needs to bear in mind is that the New Solutions K-12 initiative is an administrative driven evaluation of, and I might need just a little bit of help on you on this, Andy, but how we allocate our resources, particularly with scheduling, and I also believe they were going to take a look at staffing. Do I have that roughly correct?
I'd say that's accurate, yeah.
Okay. So, bearing in mind that this is an administrative function and not a function of this board, we had, I thought, a very useful both presentation and dialogue. One of the most interesting things to me is that there may be some preliminary results from the New Solutions K-12 initiative here that may arrive in November, where they could possibly impact the budget process. So that was a really interesting discussion. We also checked in with administration on our timelines for some reporting that we would like to see in terms of documentation that will help us in making some decisions around budget and recommendations to the board. But I'm going to talk here for just a moment about the budget process itself, and it's this. Those of us who have sat around the table for quite a while, and I've been to at least 24 sessions around budget, probably more, but I stopped counting when I ran out of fingers and toes. These have always been what I would describe as a fairly open and freewheeling within certain parameters discussions. And I took the initiative to run the meeting, seeking input from all of the players who are around the table and in Zoom. And I, in spite of my vote to censure Mr. Lambert, I have to take note of the fact that both Priscilla and Dave, who I invited to participate in our discussion, had useful inputs for New Solutions K-12 that apparently their consultant had at that point not been cognizant of. So having those additional inputs, I believe, was helpful to us overall. And if I were to become a permanent chair of budget, I'm going to tell you right now that I'm not operating under the 3-minute rule, because I think there's too much important information that other participants who are not necessarily committee members can and hopefully will provide us with, that we need to have. And I'm going to cite the prime example right now up there on the Zoom screen in the person of Mike Stack, who has produced a tremendous amount of data, which we need to, I think, efficiently discharge our responsibilities as a committee. And if this committee were to treat Mike's inputs under the 3-minute rule, we would be severely handicapped in our ability to produce a thoughtful budget document, which the board, I hope, would then be able to take to the voters and support when the budget is explained in our annual meeting and voted at town meeting time. So as much as I appreciate why sometimes we need to limit inputs from non-board members, I have an obligation to point out to everyone around the table, everyone in the room, not necessarily around the table, that there are times when we need to be able to engage in a wider dialogue. That's all I got for you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for sharing that meeting. And I will have meeting minutes to you, Andy, by tomorrow for that meeting, so you can get them posted. And then we can vote out. When is the next budget meeting, David?
I think it's Thursday.
The 28th,
Am I
right?
correct? Somebody help me with this.
Yes, that's
I believe it's
correct.
Thursday the 28th,
And at what time?
6 o'clock, here, this room.
And will it be available on Zoom or?
I anticipate that it would be a Zoom
Okay.
meeting.
The only issue would be, I'd have to go back and check, so I just don't have it on my calendar, is if, Athens Grafton is having a meeting. Because that is their meeting, that is their alternative meeting night.
To
So,
be determined.
Mr. Budget Chair, will you have an agenda for Nicole tomorrow so she can get it posted?
I will endeavor to prepare an agenda in the morning. I think it will be primarily collecting data from administration. And I will leave it fairly open so that if there are other topics around budget which administration wishes to address to us, that we will be able to do so.
Thank you,
So to
David.
check in on, progress update on the assembly of budget data, plus any additional inputs that administration may have for us, as well, of course, as, communication and public comment.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your efforts. Next up, tennis courts, update on process and timeline, and we have an action item, so.
Yeah,
Andy, can
so-
you update us, please?
we had gone out to bid for, the resurfacing of the tennis courts. Sadly, we only received one bid. That was from, BT Recreational. But Steve Horton and I reviewed it, and believe it's, the number is right, and the scope of work that they're looking to do is correct. The bid is, for $51,876. We would have to go and ask for a waiver, from the state, before that could begin. But they would, what they would do is, they would, fill the cracks, remove the membrane, that's up there, fill the cracks. They put a coat of black acrylic for resurfacer. They put the next, which is a plexi pave material, which is the green. They put 2 coats of that on. And then, it would be, they come back, paint the lines, and be able to do that. They are proposing this as a Band-Aid, that is in their proposal. And they would look to, they're saying that this would be a June or July 24 project, weather permitting.
Oh, another season without home games.
We could push them and see if we could get them to go sooner. I just,
Why is it a Band-Aid?
the actual surface, which, it's like an asphalt surface, it needs to come up and it needs to be redone. I mean, that's the underlayment, the aggregate base appears to be good, but the Band-Aid is you're just filling the cracks, and the cracks are just continuing to get bigger. They've been
Okay.
Band-Aiding it for many years.
For $51,000. Big Band, that's a big Band-Aid.
Jim?
How long do they think this Band-Aid will last? 5 years, they're guaranteeing it. for
Not
5
guaranteed,
years.
they're guaranteed in 1 year, but
Yeah.
they're saying it should last about 5 years.
Same thing we do crack sealing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're quoting something, is that quote going to be valid in June and July?
If we go with it now, yes,
They'll honor that
yes,
quote.
yes.
Can I, Brock, can I ask your expertise on this?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just, yeah.
You answered.
It's, we knew this was gonna be a Band-Aid because really that whole asphalt underneath that spoke. My question was if we could get this done prior to going into the winter season, because I feel I have a responsibility as a board to handle things that are on our campus that are non-functional and not safe. And I feel bad for the people that utilize those facilities. Obviously, it's gotten to that point. I hope in the future we have funds set aside to avoid this down the road. However, if we do this, I would also, and I would ask administration to potentially look at this with coaches and et cetera, is to potentially do lines on pickleball, because that is a new, much movement of a sport. It's a very fast growing sport. It's on ESPN now. And so it gives our physical education, our school community a chance to use it, gives obviously our tennis teams and then maybe community members that are taxpayers an opportunity to use it. So I simply offer that as maybe we put a court or put 2 courts in, but I think it would add to the functionality and maybe even ease the pain of the cost that it's gonna cost us.
Yeah, nice. I think
Can you, like, I know on a lot of turf surfaces, you do different colors, so you can have a football field, a soccer field, a field hockey field, a lacrosse field. Is that how they do it with pickleball? So it's different color lines,
Yep.
maybe? Okay.
Yeah, and I would, and I think the company that is doing it probably has all that information. If not, there's another company out there locally that has done it at a local school. I think Leland Gray I think it was in the paper not too long ago that they were actually going to be putting that on their courts. So I'm not advocating it. I guess I am sort of advocating for it because of the use of it. But I lean towards administration to figure out is this something that's functional for them?
It would make the Band-Aid a little bit more digestible. I
don't want a
think.
question for that.
Use it.
Go ahead, Deb.
Because the time frame for getting it done is not till June and July of next year. I would ask that we consider going back out to bid at the beginning of the new year. And only because the price might be better, might not, but we can't use it. They aren't gonna do anything now for 10 months. That's all. I'm just considering that maybe get a couple of bids then for a new year. That's all. That's the reason I'm saying that, is because
Sorry,
it's 10 months out.
To do a
Rebid.
Band-Aid or to?
No, to rebid the project and maybe not for a Band-Aid.
Well, I
for the
guess
whole
that's
project.
the direction we would need is.
Yeah.
Are you asking us to go out to bid for a total revamp, which we consider that to be the fencing as well?
Right.
Because the fencing needs to be done. And so having the whole thing done soup to nuts,
Since we're waiting 10 months to get a Band-Aid,
Get the quote.
I would think get a quote for the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my thinking, but there's a possibility the price will be worse. I mean, the price is definitely gonna be worse for the whole project, but in the end, you're gonna have to spend more money to redo the whole thing after the Band-Aid. Why not get it done? So that's just the thought.
Andy, can we go back to them and say, listen, we're ready to approve this, but we really need this done in the next 4 to 6 weeks? And then have them come back and say, I don't know what world you live in, but no, and then that way we have our answer.
I'm happy to do that for you. Again, I mean, yeah, we'd be happy to go back to them and ask them if there's any way to do it sooner.
Andy, can I ask, what do you mean by when you say, waiver for it? What do you mean?
So under bid law, anything that's over $40,000, you need to obtain 3 bids.
Yeah.
and, 3 competitive bids. And if you don't have 3 competitive bids, then you have to ask the AOE to provide you with a waiver. So you have to demonstrate that you in good faith, went out, put this in the paper, solicited for bid, waited a certain amount of time. This is why we're coming to you now, not a little while ago. And then you come back with it. That way, they're making sure you didn't go to your brother who's got resurfacing, coming in and doing it. So that's the purpose of the bid law.
Sure. Jamie, what's your opinion on this?
I like the idea of getting a bigger, wider quote on it if we have to wait anyway, pushing them, and trying to see if we can get a additional quote. Doesn't hurt.
Darcy, Tanya, I haven't heard you go.
No, I agree.
Darcy?
Agree.
So if I may, the only potential hiccup, and I'm not pushing this, but if we were to say to them, thanks, but no thanks, and say we want to go out and have the whole thing done soup to nuts, with them working on their schedule, it may be that they give up that slot for somebody else, and we get no one to bid on that. So that's the risk. And I feel it's my responsibility to at least tell you what those risks are. However, we also may have a company who's like, we didn't want to bid on it because we didn't want to do the Band-Aid, we want to do the whole thing. And so that's the plus side of it. So I think going out for looking at the whole soup to nuts thing, there might be a sticker shock. But it would give you.
It will be.
Yeah. So, what's your opinion? What the information, so we qualify.
I was listening. Well, I'll be able to answer.
So this is an action item, right? So we need to vote on it?
I was asked, we do not, I was asking that we were requesting action, but if the board would like to direct me to go back out, to reject this bid and go back out to bid, we can do that. That is action. So.
Okay. Go ahead, Jerry.
Is there any way we can make a motion to have Andy push back a little bit and see if they can do it in 4 to 6 weeks, do the Band-Aid? And then if they can't, then send it all out for bids for the whole complete project.
If I could offer, we could go, first motion could be go push back, see what you can get. Okay, second one could be go out to bid and see what it's going to cost to do some house. I mean, the two can be, and if they come back and say they can do it, and we've gone out to bid, we can either rescind that RFP, we can pull it, say we're not interested, or we can still have that information and it would sit there to give you information in the future as far as do you want to start saving money for it.
In the 51,000 that we're gonna pay for, that's coming right from us, correct? Correct. So we have a motion?
So is any work that we're gonna have done.
One last question. How long did that court last? How old is it before it went bad? 20
The court out
years?
there now?
No, I believe it's been repaired. It's been multiple
It's
times.
been repaired multiple times.
That court that's up there now?
Yeah.
Chris Kibbe, I asked him because he was the last super,
Oh, yeah.
under it, and he said it wasn't done like 20 years ago, it was done more recent, maybe like 10, 12.
Okay.
So,
2010.
But the repairs have been,
Continual probably. Every so many
yeah,
years.
and I mean, when Sean showed them to me a couple of years ago, I mean, they've gotten bigger.
Well, I just mean, how long would a brand new one from soup to nuts, how long would it last, and before you need to do repairs on it? If it's just twice as much as,
Yeah.
5 years.
I can get you an answer on that, I just don't know.
Yeah, I get it, okay.
So you have a question?
Yeah, I was listening. I just didn't know quite what you were trying to ask me to answer on. So can you be more specific on?
I just wanted to get I asked, everyone who hadn't had a chance to speak, just what their opinion was before we call the question, I guess.
Well, I think your discussion was good. You addressed that you'd like it sooner, and I like Rod's ideas on utilizing it more for multiple things like pickleball and tennis as well, so that you've got more activity from your visit department. And if you can get it done sooner, if you wait till, it would be better to get it done sooner. If you wait till after the 2024 season, maybe you also need to consider whether you do want just the Band-Aid or whether you want to do the full replacement, because you've already missed your season. It's just something to consider.
Thank you. So is the, is there, go ahead, Rob.
Thing, and I know we're dealing with this with roof and we're dealing with this HVAC, everything's moved back, so my initial thought was, what the heck, it's shocking that it's that far out with the winter and everything. But the other option is, if we don't do this, then we may be looking, if we try to do the whole thing, we may be looking at a third year of this program not using the facilities. Because if we get quotes over the next couple of months and somebody says, yeah, we're gonna put it on your schedule, I wonder when that date potentially would be.
Well, and I think that's where, again, in talking with Steve and trying to plan out some of these things, there may be companies out there that are more interested in doing the whole work because it's just a bigger job. It's a benefit to them as opposed to doing the repair work. And so it's potential that the same company could go back and say, oh yeah, we could do that in the same time frame. It just may, I don't know, without asking that question. I just won't know.
That's fair. Someone like to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make the smaller motion first. I move that we charge administration with asking, who are they? VT Recreational to move their time frame for construction up to 6 weeks. Within 6 weeks, to begin construction within 6 weeks. Is that close enough to?
We say this fall.
This fall, okay.
Prior
All right,
to-
so change 6 weeks this fall, yeah. If they can, to request that they do that. If they don't, that's that one motion, then we can make the second motion after that.
So is it your motion also to, if that can happen, that we?
No, that should be
That's
two
the one
motions.
motion.
Let's make that a second motion, just so
I
that
guess
one's
the
not tied
clarification I
into.
would have, and it might be where you say, if they say yes, am I authorized to?
Oh,
I can do
and if in the affirmative, the board authorize, the administration to sign for the completion of the project.
So I'll make sure I'm hearing you. If they can do it this fall, we're gonna
Then
spend
we're
the
good,
51,000.
then we'll say we're good, yeah.
Okay. That's the motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Amy, I'm gonna start with you.
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
Priscilla?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
Darcy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So do we need the other motion yet? Because we can do that at the next meeting. Yeah,
Very good.
I can start fishing too.
yeah, you can start fishing.
I have
Cast your net
I
wide.
understand the consensus of the board at this point.
Well, I also understand that a lot of project managers will be picking up starting their stuff up in, the fall into winter, setting up for next spring. So we have that a number of times with the stuff that I do. And so the sooner you get ahead of that curve, the more they can book you in, and then you're locked. So you don't have to worry about being, if they can get to you, they'll get to you. But, yeah, so that would be good if the other one doesn't.
Okay, so up next, number 7 is now process of Bellows Junior High School board resignation. Did I have that right?
Yeah, I think that was the one you wanted first, yeah?
Okay. Andy, is there a process? Is there a
So-
policy?
Yeah, so because you are a union board. So, when a member leaves your board for whatever reason before their, term, thank you. I was gonna say sentence, but anyway, before their term is expired, then, what happens is the clerk needs to notify, back to, not only the town clerk, but also to the local school board that there is a vacancy. And then the local school board, they have 5 days to do that. And the local school board has 30 days to appoint a new member to the union board. And so, at that point, that's where it gets a little more gray. It doesn't have to be an election. I believe in Jamie's, situation, Westminster decided to post something or somehow you found out about it. But, so it can be another member from their high school board. It could be anyone. It just has to be right. So that is the process.
So does the board have to approve the letter of resignation before the time clock starts ticking?
I'm unclear on that. I mean, typically a resignation is a resignation. That is what that is the counsel I've gotten from Pietro in the past. A resignation is a resignation.
Right. So I brought this up, because the other item of election of Mike Stack to represent Bellows Falls Union High School on RVTC board action needed. I wasn't sure since I have not heard that he's not on the board. So I guess that's a question that I would like, has Mike turned in his resignation? I think that's information we should know as a board.
Well, I can only, I can't speak for Mike, but I'm also hopeful that he reconsiders quickly.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
On the River Valley Technical School District bylaws, on page 2A, it says that the district's governing board, either by a director or a member school district governing board, they can appoint a resident to the member, to represent the board on the River Valley. So he does, if he did give his resignation, it doesn't matter for 7, what is it, B now?
Yeah, so, yes, we
we
can
can
still
still appoint him to this.
So then I
that's
guess,
their bylaws.
yes.
So
That's it.
So-
just for clarification, the other part of that is and elected by the voters of the member school district. So I would only ask we might want to get some legal advice on that, because it may be much like you all are elected to be on this board by your constituents or your electorate. It just, that and is what, it's not a or.
Hold on a second. So I always want to rein this back in. So the first thing we're talking about is, I want to jump ahead to 7 and B or whatever it is. So we have the process for resignation. Yeah, we good with that one? We good with that? Okay. We good with that one?
Still not clear.
I'm
For
not,
Mike's resignation.
yeah, I feel like we're sitting here gonna make a decision on something else. I would like to know, has Mike resigned?
If he has, even though you would saying you would like him to reconsider, that makes it sound like you're saying, yes, he did resign. And resignation, the clock started ticking 5 days for us to tell Rockingham School Board. So what is it? Did he resign in writing or verbally to you?
He sent an email, yeah.
Then that's a resignation, which we can't say no to if he chooses to resign. If you want to pull it, should have pulled it before we got to a board meeting, but that's been more than 5 days, right? Unless it's the calendar or is it calendar days or work days? So I don't know, see if it could be one or the other, that's iffy right here, but still, it's been approximately more than 5 days anyway.
Calendar.
Okay. So it means he's resigned, which means we need to take action from that point forward, and if he wishes to change his mind, then he has to put his hat in the ring for a reappointment with the Rockingham School Board. So I'm saying that's clear. If he's given you a written resignation, it's a resignation and he's resigned. Look, dislike it, though I do. That's where we are with it. And we have to move forward from that point. So that's.
Well, I was gonna say that if there's any ambiguity about Mike Stack's status, I think it is in this board's best interest to elect. Because if he is a member of the board, we're simply ratifying an action taken previously, which was an appointment. And if he's not a member of this board, then we maintain the continuity of our representation at River Valley Technical Center Board through the act of this board electing him to represent us. That's my point.
So can I go back to the first one? You said we can't elect him here. right?
Well, what we would do, Jason, is this body would elect Mike Stack, or depending on who makes the motion, could elect a different individual to represent us on River Valley Technical Center Board. And as I said, if there's any ambiguity around a resignation, it would at least allow us the continuity of participation up at the RVTC table. So,
You're the representative, David, to the River Valley Tech right now.
I am not. I indicated when we reorganized that it was my preference to go to I still think of it as Southeast Career Center, which is Brattleboro.
So who is for the?
Mike Stack has been representing this board on RVTC.
Well, then if the way she read it, as far as it could be a resident, he's already been elected, he's already serving on it, so is that
With the
covered?
chair's permission, I would like to clarify, because I have spent quite a bit of time in those bylaws. And that is this, if this board were to adopt the position that Mike Stack has resigned, and there is evidence that suggests that he has, if we wish to have him continue to represent us at RVTC, then this board would need to put his name into consideration and vote to have him continue to represent us up at RVTC. I will avoid making advocacy at this point. That essentially is what the RVTC bylaws allow for. This board can appoint or elect a member of its body to represent us at RVTC, but this board can only elect a non-member of this board who resides within the district and presumably is a registered voter to represent us at RVTC. So
Does that mean that we elect though, or does that have to go back, like in your case, if you were on there, would you have to go back to Westminster? Or if he was a Rockingham one, do they have to go back to Rockingham?
Well, in this
I don't
case, Priscilla, it is the union, Bellows Falls Union High School District 27, which is the entity that has representation at the table. Therefore, it would be this board who would elect a non-member to represent us if we chose to do so.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Would it be appropriate, I see Mike is with us, to clarify his, current standings on the board?
How would you say, David?
I'd ask him.
I'd like to query citizen staff. Did I say that correctly?
There we go.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Yes, I have to say, I did resign, and I resigned because I did not believe that the board was going to hold our members accountable for their actions. And as a result of what I've seen tonight, I will definitely consider rescinding my resignation. the bottom line is I'll do what the board wants. If the board wants to have me represent them at River Valley Tech Center, I'm happy to do that. I take this very seriously. And I would request that you at least give me 24 hours to think about it. But I don't like to play around and waste people's time. The bottom line is I've seen action by the board tonight that indicates a strong willingness to hold our members accountable for their behavior. And so that's having a big impact on me, and I just need a little time to digest it.
Thank you.
I query the chair to query the member of the public citizen staff as to whether he would be willing to continue representing this board, Mike, at the RVTC table, irregardless of your resignation or rescinded resignation status. Would you be willing to consider your continued representation? Because if you are, my math says that RVTC board will meet on the first Wednesday of the month of October, which will occur before our second Monday of the month of October meeting. And therefore, without action tonight, there is the possibility that this board would have no representation at all when the next RVTC meeting occurs. And that concerns me.
So, procedure question I have is, do we need to vote that Mike rescinds it, or is it too late?
I don't think we can vote to rescind. I don't believe we have the powers, but we do have the powers to elect a representative of the board. And I do note that I may be speaking out of turn, because I noticed that Rob had his hand up. Sorry, about the same time I started opening my mouth.
Sorry, Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
So again, I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Has it, and this is a question to our chair, has it been 5 days or more that a board member has resigned?
When was, so today is the last meeting was the 19th?
Yep, so 6 days.
Yes, more than 5 days. So if I'm hearing that correctly, then he would have to go to the Rockingham board to get back on this board.
If it's calendar. That was clarification.
Oh, Andy, are you checking if it's calendar or
Do that.
do you want to take a recess to call Pietro?
And point of order is that I believe you're talking about appointment, not election. We don't elect, we appoint. Is that not correct from our board? It's appointment. We would appoint him to the RVTC.
Okay, the board under the bylaws can elect or appoint, but the board can only elect a non-member.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, what's your pleasure, board?
Can I offer a motion?
Please.
Okay, I move that this board elect Mike Stack as its representative to River Valley Tech Center, and that the chair conduct that election. So this is actually a two-part motion. One would be to approve the motion, and the second would be the chair to then conduct an election.
Okay.
One motion, but two parts to it.
Rob, I see you.
Yeah, I'm just finding this out over the last 20 minutes that it's official that we have a board member resign. If possible, I would like to consider tabling this for one meeting to find out what the next steps are. I have a lot of respect for Mike and the work he's doing. I just feel like, and that's the reason I brought this up first, because he's a board member until we've been told he's not. So I was a little concerned about the fact that we were going to elect him when we weren't first known that he was really on this board.
Will the chair allow a response, please? Okay, the position that I would take, Rob, is that Mike was the appointment of this board to RVTC. And if we were to discover that we were within that 5-day window, even by electing him, the practical result under that scenario, this board would simply be ratifying an action previously taken, which we generally do when we adjust the agenda to add an action item which was not previously on the agenda. The board will act on it, but then the board will vote to ratify that action at its following meeting. So either we're ratifying a action previously taken by this board, or we are electing a representative who does not hold legal status as a member of the board and therefore will require an election. I hope that's it's getting late for this guy, but I hope that it's understandable.
Yes, Andy, do you have?
I have the law in front of me, which is 16 VSA 749A. Under 1 says that the Union High School District Clerk shall notify the board of the member district not later than 5 days after learning of a vacancy. Within 30 days after receiving notice, the board of the member district shall appoint a person who is otherwise eligible to serve as a member of the high school, the Union High School District, to fill the vacancy until the voters elect a successor at its annual meeting.
So that says after learning, so a lot of us
As a
just
clerk, no.
learned tonight. So the 5-day clock, if I'm hear that correctly, the 5-day clock starts today when we all learned about it.
On notifying,
The clerk,
on notifying the Rockingham board.
Right.
the Rockingham board.
So can I ask a
Please.
question? So what you're saying is you're giving her 5 days from now to,
That's what I would, because that says.
I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, that says upon learning. And
So time out to throw, if you're saying upon learning and Mike's saying, give me 24 hours. So if he says 24 hours from now, I don't want to.
It was written. I would, I mean,
But I'm not supposed to
Right.
send all, or that'd be a violation of open meeting law.
I honestly feel like this board, like I found out in the newspaper, but yet until tonight, I didn't know whether Mike was currently on the board or not.
That's the drawbacks of not being able to communicate and send out.
Right.
So-
Communication.
Well, no, because we send information out all the time.
If it's.
We didn't ask, just as long as there's no feedback.
Well, no,
As long
but
as not
because
reply to all.
under the training that we got, Pietro said, even when you send out something, and there's discussion on that, even when you send out something, it's still considered a meeting. So unless it's like for the meeting, like when I send you the document of whatever, it's like for the meeting, so. This wasn't necessarily for the meeting.
I feel like this was information that we should have gotten.
I'm not
And
disagreeing with you.
so now that we know it, now we'll follow the process.
Okay, so which motion is on the floor first?
I don't think, well,
I think the only motion you have on the floor currently is the one I made.
Can you restate it for us one more time?
Okay, I move that this board direct the chair to, pardon me, I need to restate this, I'm just a little bit off. I move that this board consider Mike Stack as a representative of this board to represent us on, a little redundant, River Valley Technical Center Board, and to instruct the chair to conduct an election. In other words, if this board successfully moves to request the election of Mike Stack, then we would move to an election. But the board may, heaven help me, elect not to seek an election, in which case somebody would need to make a different motion. Okay, so I'll state it one more time, hopefully coherently, and that is that my motion is to elect Mike Stack, represent Bellows Falls Union High School Board on the River Valley Technical Center Board, and to conduct an election. Two parts. Okay, one, the motion is approved, there will be an election. However, if the motion is not approved, there will be no election, and another motion may be required if we're gonna move forward on RVTC.
Okay, so, we have a motion on the floor. Deb, there you go.
Aye.
Darcy,
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
June,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Marcella,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
and Jamie.
Yep.
Okay, now I'd like to conduct an election to place Mike Stack on the RVTC board. Does that need to be a?
I would
straw poll?
nominate Mike.
No, you're
Stack.
conducting an
That's
election.
what you're doing. I make a nomination for Mike Stack.
You're making a nomination for Mike Stack? We need a second?
A second.
Okay,
You should ask, well, actually, I think you could ask for other nominations.
is there any other nomination?
I will move the nominations be closed and
Yes.
direct the board clerk, I believe, is the officer to cast one ballot for Mike Stack as representative of Bellows Falls Union High School Board to River Valley Technical Center Board.
Does Darcy need to do anything for that?
Put it in the minutes.
Oh, Mike is elected.
Mike is elected.
So I have a question.
Please.
What do I do about the Rockingham board and town clerk?
So you'd have to notify them that there's a vacancy.
Okay.
No,
No. Yeah,
you have 5 days from today.
I
So
just from his
If
notice.
he rescinds his in 24 hours, then no actions needed.
I don't know what rescission looks like.
Andy, would you check with Pietro on that?
We'll do that. Thank you. I
And let
already
me
wrote that,
know
I already wrote that down,
Good,
so I figured
good
that's
man.
where we're heading.
Why don't you save us 20? Don't put that in there.
So where are we here?
So now we have resignation, WNESU action appointment. We kind of jumped over that, so. Rob, that was.
Yeah, that was just, and June alluded to it in her committee report, but I just, you know, on September 11th, the board chair had announced that he's gonna be stepping off and appointing David Clark. And now that I think there's a different process, I would just like to ask the board chair, like, next steps for this.
Yeah, so I thought it was that easy, and it's not. So when I went to the well, prior to that, Cheryl had mentioned that that needs to be an elected position, you know, so we, just like we just did with Mr. Stack. But then there was some contention of, okay, well, nobody on that WNSU committee was elected, we were all appointed, but going back to the minutes, where Cheryl and Andy researched, everyone was elected, we all said aye, you know, blah, blah, blah. So then, you know, I potentially wanted to come off, but then after that, right around the same time, Mike had, resigned. And so then it was, okay, well, I guess I'm back on there, because we didn't follow the process. And David was not able to, he went, but he's not able to vote on anything. So it was just back to myself in June. And I thought I put it on this agenda, and I did not, to, you know, elect, somebody else for the WNSU. But, you know, if that's what we'd like to do, then, you know, we can make that.
I'm just asking for clarification
Yeah,
on
so that's-
what the next steps are.
So the next steps would be for us to at a meeting, ask, if I'm still coming off, ask anyone else if they'd like to go on and then have an election, and that sort of thing. So like, for that certain position, I cannot appoint. So that needs to be elected, by the bylaws that Cheryl has told us, and that's what we're gonna try to do, by being consistent, so. Which was okay with me, so. But that was that. Yep.
So do we appoint David or ask for anybody else? And then vote on it and ratify it at the next meeting, or do we just wait until the next meeting to?
I think,
that.
you know what, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if we technically always need 3 people on that board, Andy, all the time.
Well, you have 3 spots on there, yes, and
So what's the board's pleasure? I'll leave it up to the board as a whole. What do you guys like to do? Would anybody like to be on a WNESU board?
I
would.
I was gonna say, I would like to consider it, but I can't make a decision on that right now.
I think if you're gonna have representation, Jason, you need to have somebody put on there so that you have 3.
So Rob, you threw your name in the hat.
What we gonna do tonight? I mean, it needs to be ratified, whatever action we take. I'm just
Because
making a
it's
list
a
of
board appointment, does it still, Deb? I'm kind
Yeah,
of
so it's,
questioning that.
so
I think-
Cheryl,
I think we're okay.
Cheryl was saying that it needs to be elected. So Rob says
Yeah,
yes.
but just elected, I don't think we would have to worry about ratifying it because it's a board that.
you didn't have it as an
If-
action item,
no,
so therefore
no,
it would need
right,
to be
does it
ratified.
really?
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean,
easy.
if you're following the rules, then you should
Follow the rules,
ratify it.
ratify the actions following it.
Yeah. So, okay, so that would mean that, so if, would be myself, June. I personally would like to come off the WNSU, just so that as long as we continue to get the notes, I think it's more important that I help, or just, focus on the PCBs and stuff like that. It's just a lot of work. So, David?
Okay, I'm just asking the question. When is the next meeting of the WNESU board? I believe that this board will meet in October before the next scheduled meeting. Therefore, we could put the question on the agenda and conduct our action at our first October meeting and not lose any representation of the WNESU by so doing, and I think it'd be simpler than trying to hash it out at quarter on 9.
Yeah.
And then have to repeat the action at the next meeting. What is the next?
The NSU meeting would be the Wednesday following our.
So
Right, yeah.
third Wednesday.
Oh, it's the 3rd one, okay.
So we have
we have
plenty of
time.
time. So what's the board's pleasure? Rob, what's your pleasure? You jumped up. We don't get a lot of people volunteer for stuff, so.
I think we vote tonight and then if we need to ratify it next week, ratify it next week.
Okay.
One less agenda item next time, hopefully.
Yes, Deb.
I think we ought to hold off to the next meeting because she is considering and you are not ready. And by the next meeting, you'll be ready. And then we have 2 now, potentially 3 people who are interested. And then they can all plead their case.
We already have one on,
What's that?
we have June on there already.
June's on there.
Just need 2 more.
Oh, so you need, okay, so you need 1 more person?
2
June?
more. If Jason gets off,
Yeah,
you need 2 more to get to 3.
okay. So then we could,
But we
Maybe do it
would
again.
still have 3 candidates if we did it next.
right, we
meeting
do it the
and-
next meeting. That's all
Or
I'm
we
saying.
could have 3 candidates. It's.
Yeah, and give the person who's considering the option to say yes.
I'd like to hold off if that's okay, Rob.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. All right, number 8, unfinished business. RHR management letter. Deb, this is your item. Can you speak to that or what were you?
I simply want to know that, how it's coming, what the projected date is still sometime in October. I would like to make sure that it is available for budget committee consideration, if there's anything that needs to be, if there's going to be anything in it. Along with, say, for instance, like the new solutions and all that. I just want every piece of information that can be available that the budget committee would make recommendations on, so I want to see the management letter. It usually used to come in days of old, and I am, would come in at the back of all of the audits.
Yep.
But now in the last 5 years, something like that, they've all come like months later after the audit's already been presented. I think
So
that,
I queried Jim
yeah,
and said, what, do we have this? When are we getting it? And so, as soon as I know, we'll.
yeah, I
get it out
think
to
he's
you.
still saying something like October. But
At
that's
the,
all.
at the SU meeting, he said November 30th, we would have it in hand.
Oh,
So they
Okay.
come in, like, as they finish some of the, you know, like Athens Grafton may come in a lot faster because
Oh.
it's smaller.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so
Alright.
they don't all come at the same time,
okay.
but I will get that and let the board know.
Oh, okay. So when does the budget committee have to make their final recommendations to this board? When does the high school budget committee have to do that?
Good question. I
'Cause
don't know
there's,
that
there's gotta be a date. I don't know when it is.
Well, certainly with enough time so that it can be discussed, table here, and get the printers. Usually the printers have determined our deadlines, but yeah, you have a fixed timeline on when you warn an annual meeting. Heaven help me, I think it's not less than 30 and not more than 45 days. In other words, the warning for this body, I believe, would need to be available not less than 30 and not more than 45 days in advance of the meeting. Therefore, this and it's usually, I think, the fourth week in February that we have our annual meeting. Okay, back up from that fourth week in February, a minimum of 30 and a maximum of 45 days. That's when we have to have a warning. The warning should include an action on your budget, and this board would need adequate time ahead of the finalizing of the warning to discuss and adopt a budget. And I would argue that you might want to have as many as 2 meetings ahead of that. So let's call it end of February, 30 days back would be the end of January.
29th of January,
Pardon me?
29th of January. It's 30 days.
Yeah, okay, there's 30 days. And if you're gonna have 2 meetings before the 30th of January, you can probably squeeze them in January, but you probably be better off having 1 meeting in January to approve a warning and as many as 2 meetings to discuss a budget if it appears that the budget may be contentious.
Talking mid-December,
So
essentially.
hopefully we would be back to this board with a budget recommendation by the first December meeting, which
Okay.
suggests that the budget committee would need to finish its business in November, or at least before the first meeting of this board in December.
Thank you,
I'm
David.
hopeful, Deb, that gives you a rough timeline, but
It does. I just want to see that all the other materials that may have an impact on the budget will be available prior to that last budget meeting before it gets to us. That's all.
well, the budget committee can meet twice a week, up until the first meeting of this board, which would occur in the second week of December, second Monday in December. I'm not recommending it, but I think that if we find that we're running behind time, we hold more meetings with the budget committee. So that when this board meets at its first December meeting, it has a work product to consider. And if it needs more time, then it can also consider it at its second meeting. Maybe we can wrap it up before the board's second meeting in November, who knows? But, do our best to get it wrapped as quickly as possible and certainly in time so that it can be included in a warning adopted by this board timely. that, 30 to 45 day window, between high school annual meeting and when you can, post your warning. And if there's somebody at the table, or even I'm gonna, with the chair's permission, even the audience who, can correct me if I've got my 30 to 45 day timeline wrong, I would certainly encourage the chair to seek that advice, but I believe that's what it is.
I believe that is correct. It's either 40 or 45 days, but I believe that it's the 30 days. And we did put out a draft proposed calendar to all board members.
That's right.
That follows pretty darn close to what Mr. Clark just reviewed. So,
And I know you did, but looking at when the pieces come together, that was my concern.
Yes, thank you. Moving on, board goals and norms. Rob, this was yours. Go for it.
Yeah, so I would like, we talked about it a lot, or maybe I have. I would like to make a motion that this board, since we all have an individual vote, decide whether we want to take action and develop board goals and norms at the second meeting time in October. So that's my motion on the floor, is that we agree that we're going to do that.
Good, so motion on the floor, any discussion? Good,
Can I make a friendly, maybe not friendly? Can I suggest that we talked about this one other time, making a subcommittee, to come up with some of these goals and norms to bring to the board meeting. So maybe we could do that and then bring it to the second board meeting of each month to get everybody's input.
Yes. I just think it needs all of our input, and if, just like we have committee work for budget, for buildings and grounds, if we want to have a committee for that we tackle that and then bring it to a board meeting. As long as we accomplish this, so we all have a level of how we're gonna function.
so, my question would be, I guess, what would be your vision, how it would look different from the bylaws? Would it be like enhancing the WNESU bylaws, or to be, we're just gonna follow our own path? But
I think the bylaws have to be entwined in it. I mean, it has to be fully we have to follow those bylaws. I think we then as a board can say, okay, we've had 3 meetings that have had some very sensitive information going on. So I think we may need to adopt things specific to our board, and I think we should have that right to do.
And then it would all be written down in kind of
And it could be
an official
reviewed,
document,
and it could be reviewed annually
kind of like
or whenever.
Voted, everybody votes on it after we agree on them, and then that's our law for the year.
annually after boards are seated, they're supposed to adopt new goals every year
Yeah.
in March.
Yeah.
And we haven't done that since I've been on.
Which is the reason for the motion.
Your motion on the floor, David.
Yeah, I want to get a clarification. Is the motion, I'm not certain, Joe, you were making a friendly amendment to have a committee, develop a work product that could come back to the board for review. Is that the way I'm understanding it?
Yes.
And that's the way you're understanding it, Rob?
The committee would get feedback, get ideas from our whole board, and then we would look at as a committee, take all that. That committee would then come to this board for further discussion or approval.
I'm prepared to support the motion. I will simply add that if we have rejoined the Vermont School Boards Association, that I believe that they do have materials that could be helpful in the process.
So I want to clarify for anybody who's out there who might have fallen asleep, wake up first. And then the motion is to develop a committee for the next meeting. Motion is to develop a committee for the norms, and then at the next meeting, then we start, we pick the committee, basically. and then we can go forward.
The second meeting. I think it would take time for this committee to, whoever it is, to get together and do some work.
We're not making the committee tonight, right?
You could appoint two committees.
I think you need to.
Okay.
So I'm gonna offer an amendment. With the amendment, since June's amendment was accepted as a friendly amendment, this main motion. My motion is operating on the same timeline that you and June have agreed on, that we direct the chair to appoint that committee.
Okay, and then I would do that after we vote, right?
If the amendment is accepted, unless it's accepted as a friendly amendment, because it's still Rob's motion at this point. If it is accepted by Rob as a friendly motion, it would become a main motion. It would direct the chair to appoint that committee. You have the language remaining intact, and if the maker, Rob, is not accepted as a friendly amendment, then we will be voting the amendment and then returning to the main motion, either in the form that is currently proposed or in the form that is modified by the amendment. Brian, not to get too deep into the weeds, but I think that is procedurally how you would handle it as chair.
Okay. Is that acceptable to you, Rob?
I would like to, because I would like people similar to those that might be interested in a seat. If they want to be on the committee, I think they ought to be able to put their name forward to the chair to then determine that. But I don't want somebody to be asked to do it if they didn't volunteer to do it. So I guess that would be my return.
So there's a motion.
If it's I'm still trying to negotiate with the chair's permission with my Rockingham colleague. If you're willing to accept it as a friendly amendment, that would be fine with me. If it's not, I think I would like to withdraw it in interest of bringing this meeting to a conclusion because it's been kind of long. So I'm seeking the members' input as to whether he can accept it as a friendly amendment or whether it would be better to withdraw it in the interest of moving the process along.
If you would withdraw.
Okay, I withdraw the amendment.
Okay, so the original motion on the floor is to develop a committee for norms, and then I would appoint people tonight. I would ask for volunteers and then appoint. Is that accurate? That
I just have to say that we already have state statutes to follow with their own set of constraints and limitations on how board members act. I'm very leery of further restrictions on the body.
any other comments before we go?
We need goals.
Good, well, let's see a vote. Deb, how do you vote?
No.
Darcy,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And Jamie,
Yes.
motion passed. All right, next up, any volunteers for this committee? 1, 2, 3. Anyone else? Okay, I would like to appoint Jamie, Rob, and June. And what I ask is that when you guys do that, like what we're trying to do with the budget committee and building grounds, we're gonna warn it. Somebody gotta take notes, somebody gotta like prepare a Zoom link if possible, all the processes and procedures that we've been doing without the other committees, so the public, in full transparency, can have all of our meeting notes. Because that has not happened.
So I'll, Nicole, reach out to all of you to try and find a time that works. So she can warn.
Okay. All right, moving on. Hey, number 9, director's comments. Jamie, let's start with you.
Okay. My thoughts are very splintered. I just want to address, I'm gonna start with just the concepts that Kelly brought up about speedy remediation. similar, conflicts here of, let's get these kids educated and, business as usual, get things more normal, but also, we're dealing with a building that is subpar, big expensive projects slated, and big unknowns about remediation. So I just want to clarify that I myself don't necessarily agree with speedy. I want all the information, and we have some big moving pieces, and how do we make all these things aligned with what we're trying to do with other projects as well. So whatever we can do to sort of get all that working together. I'm not trying to slow it down a crazy amount, but just figure out how we can get that all to work together. Priscilla, you are a very intelligent person and you have so much to offer. And I hope that you know that, and we continue to hear what you have to say. And I know that this was challenging. It was hard for all of us. And I would like to move on and continue to work with you, even though this was really challenging.
Thank you, Julie. Rob? Priscilla?
You just mentioned working together. There is one area where I have definitely worked and not done anything, in my opinion, that was wrong. Yes, I was wrong in September, but at the budget committee, I have been respectful. I stopped talking when I was told to, and yet you felt that you did not want to work with me. I'm upset. Prayers and loving thoughts are sent. Can you do this for me? Is that okay?
This is from Priscilla. Prayers and loving thoughts are sent to Brenda Farkas and Charlie Hutchinson and their families in dealing with their loss. Also, congratulations to our Terriers for their win Friday night. Although unable to use stadium seats in the stands, with Eric missing, my husband and I stood at the fence and cheered with your field hockey cheering squad. Academics and sports appear to have gotten off to a great start in spite of the PCBs. Keep it up, Terriers.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Priscilla. Anything else, Priscilla?
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, just moving around as we skipped up again.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
All this commotion has caused the subsequent loss of a valuable new board member. I hope that it is over. I have additional comments concerning the minutes in 919. I'm sure I'll get to those at our next meeting. Considering all of this, and you appointed me, your board appointed me, I just want you to know, for myself, I prefer truthfulness to kindness. I'm always passionate about what I'm doing. I'm never passive. Everybody knows that. So when I see there's something wrong, I'm still gonna say something. I'm not a passive person. I'm not gonna sit here as a board member when I see something wrong and not say something. I want us to all work together, but that doesn't mean we let slide things that are inappropriate and offensive and call us into question. And there are comments like that have happened over many months. So I'm concerned about it. Also, secondly, I'm very concerned about the board relinquishing more of its rights through goals when we already have constriction that we need to stick in within to be a board member and a union high school board member. Adding more goals seems like a way for others to tell us what to do when we already have plenty of rules to follow. I'm very plain about that. I'm very passionate about that. I don't like constriction. I will probably fight this board's decision to move forward on these goals at each step, but I'm only one member. So I'll just be a squeaky wheel, which is basically what I'm always doing, to try to get people to see the other side of the coin. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Deb. Darcy?
I have a lot I could say about board business, but I'm not going to because I want to talk about our students. I think they are totally rocking this being in a tent outside and the hours. And our staff too, administration, and I just want to remember that they're doing a good job. I haven't heard a lot of complaining at my house. They're just doing it, like, oh, we're out in tents, okay, just go along and do it, so kudos to our kids and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanya.
All set.
Thank you, Tanya.
I'm all set.
Thank you, June. David?
Well, I will admit that I do share some of your reservations, Deb, about what I would refer to as mission creep. However, I do want to approach Rob's initiative with an open mind and see what we can. And I want to now also address the board on one of the long-term initiatives which has been going on in this district for a number of years. Those who have been around the table for a while are aware that we had a policy manual that in many instances was very much out of date, discovered within the last 5 years or so that somewhere with an electronic electronic data changeover from one system to another, we lost some of them. It just gone in the ozone. And I do recognize Priscilla Lambert's long-term ongoing efforts to put the policy manual back in order. And I do appreciate that because there was nobody else who wanted that job. I can understand why Priscilla would want it. She's done it. And also, I do need to speak to the point that you brought up around the deaths of Matt Farkas, who was the husband of another fairly long-serving board member here, Brenda Farkas, who I still hope will consider her absence to be just a sabbatical and return to this table. And I've written and told her that. And also, you know, the truly untimely death of Charlie Hutchinson's son, who had a great deal of potential to really be a game changer. And I guess the way I would put it is, you and I, Priscilla, we've been to 2 funerals, too many this year, and I hope it's the end of it for a while. And I do, you know, also acknowledge loss of your son, Eric, who I had observed growing up for a number of years. And by golly, I still miss that kid. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So tonight's meeting was obviously very tough. Nothing that I wanted to do. I thought this was over. I'm hoping now that we can actually move forward because we have to. We owe it to the faculty. We owe it to the staff. We owe it to the administration. We owe it to the kids. You know, as Citizen Stack would say, that you know, if we want to be taken seriously, then we have to sometimes do serious things. And I'm also excited about the norms. Let's see what it does. I don't think it's going to hurt. Hopefully it'll enhance the WNESU policy, and or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be exactly the same thing. I don't know, but I think there's things that we could do better, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm trying to follow. There's a lot of rules out there for us that govern us, and I'm trying to follow all of the rules, whether it's reply all, send all, you know, these types of meetings out in the open public. Anyone thinks it's easy, it's not easy. I appreciate the public for hanging in as long as you guys have. I appreciate the people on Zoom hanging in.
Yeah.
And you know, we did get a lot accomplished tonight. And Darcy, I think that hopefully there's a lot of things that Andy needs to check and, you know, get back to us on things, and hopefully, you know, he has them written down somewhere. And if not, you're gonna have to help remind him so that some things we ask for at the next meeting, we actually get them done. You know, stuff like that. So anyway, long meeting, I apologize. I call this meeting adjourned at 9:15.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.